Today in /malicious compliance, there was an attempt to fire me for malicious compliance. Longtime lurker, first-time poster. Apologize for being on mobile. It's a very long story, and tilde at the bottom. So, in 2008, I found myself working as overnight maintenance laborer for a family-owned collection of properties. 2 shopping complex, a winery, a few warehouses, but most of the time, I was working keeping a grocery store built in the late 60s functioning. Worked my way up to night maintenance manager and loved my job. I was getting the kind of education you can't buy, hands on electrical one night, plumbing the next, welding after that. All taught to me by 3 men that could build a house, up to code, single-handedly, and we all got along great. It was the first time in my adult life I had real responsibilities, and I was respecting myself because I respected the job I was doing. The owners were all people that truly cared about their employees, and they proved this when, in 2017, they sold the main grocery store. One of the many things they included in the sale was all current employees had to be offered in new positions at their current pay level. The company that bought us, I won't say their name, but think the opposite of dangerous path does not employ an in-house maintenance team. Something breaks, they outsource the fixing of it. So they really didn't have a ready-made place for me to fit into like the other department managers. The store manager also did not like that I was making $18.06 over a new hire rate. Thus began the systematic, what I saw as harassment, and what has been later confirmed to me as standard operating procedure for legally getting rid of someone at this company. Some of my faves include making my 35-year-old ass a bag boy. Joke's on you, I love doing easy work for good money, writing me up for spending 20 minutes talking to the police about an accident I had seen while returning carts. I thoroughly enjoyed the district manager apologizing to me for that. Cutting my hours down from full-time to 24 hours a week, which is completely allowable, but as the second most senior member in the store, everyone below me has to get their hours cut first. No, you can't force me to take a salaried manager's position. Yes, you can make me a cashier, a position you know I do not want, but you have to give me the $3 pay bump, and on and on and on, in addition to the many broken verbal promises and out-and-out lies. I became very well versed on the union rules, my specific contract rules, and how to protect myself. 7 union arbitrations in my first 5 months, all ended in my favor. Meanwhile, the assistant managers love me. I can cover any department because I've done most everything, and I'm a quick learner for what I don't know. Anything breaks down in the store, it was falling apart before they bought it. If I can't fix it, I can at the very least make a detailed work request so it gets fixed sooner. I become the go-to-cover guy, filling in any position that needs it. Which at long last brings me to my malicious compliance. The store was not doing well, sales-wise. About a year and a half in, they couldn't get a closing butcher. So, the night manager taps me to work in the meat department for 3 hours every night just to close it out and clean it up. In the department there is a bandsaw that's used for cutting meat with bones in it. It's a pain in the ass to clean. So after reading the department manual I realized you were not to use that piece of equipment if you hadn't been trained on it. Now I 100 had been trained on that bone saw. I knew how to take it apart, fix it, and put it back together. But that training was with the old company, and I had been informed many times that the new company only thought I'd been trained when they had trained me. Perfect. I can close down the bone saw earlier and get it cleaned. If any customer needs me to cut meat with a bone in it, I inform them that I hadn't trained on that piece of equipment. Shouldn't be an issue. This is late night, and the store's not doing that well begin with. I clear all this with the assistant manager. This goes on for months, until finally I'm called into the manager's office during the day. Turns out one of the customers I had informed that I could not use the bone saw was a secret shopper. The store manager is writing me up for failure to complete my duties. She's also writing it up as malicious failure. I forget the term they use. It's basically 2 write-ups instead of just 1. And that coupled up with my previous write-up, I was 15 minutes late once. That's on me. Gives her the free write-up she needs to fire me. As I have done so many times in the past with this woman, I invoke my right to union representation and decline to talk with her until after I've spoken with them. At this point, I'm thinking, they can't bust me. I was following the written directions, but oh, no, it got so much sweeter and so much worse. While talking to my union rep, it quickly becomes clear that the butchers are a completely different union. The store is in violation of the butcher's union contract by having a non-union employee work that department. So first my union fights the write-up, wins, and gets me paid for the 4 days I missed work. They then get me a lawyer who tells me I'm not to speak with any store manager in any capacity due to the butcher's union complaint against the store. 2 weeks off fully paid for me. I can't very well work at a store where I cannot speak to my bosses. I then get 2 more days off paid while I speak to the various union reps for my testimony. The store is fined $50,000 is what I was told for breach of butcher's contract. When I return to work, my store manager does not work there anymore. Her replacement only accepts the job if his bonuses are not tied to the store's overall performance, so he doesn't mind I'm overpaid. As icing on the cake, no one really liked her, so I'm damn near a hero when I get back. Told her after the store manager finally figures out a way to fire me. It turns out she's been breaking the rules and she loses the store. I keep my job, get almost 3 weeks paid time off, and still work for the company. This next one is entitled, You Can See My Panties. Now you can't. So during my senior year of high school, my family was going through a very hard time financially. I worked, but most my money went to the family. This meant that I couldn't really have the nicest clothing. I only had 1 pair of jeans, and the rest of my pants were those thin black leggings you get for $4 at the fast fashion stores. Those thin leggings wouldn't really hide your panties too well. There was a lot of light. I was wearing leggings and a sweatshirt to school and was walking to my next class when this story goes down. While going to my class, I get waved over by the assistant principal. She knows my name because I got dress coded before for different dumb reasons. She basically tells me to wait by her until the bell rings. After the bell rings and most people are in class, she starts lecturing me about dress code. In my full coverage outfit, I was honestly confused at first. She started to ask me if I wanted to go home and change my pants or if I wanted a pair of pants from the lost and found. I was still confused and explained that the clean pants I had at home were just the same pair of leggings anyway. Then she wags her finger in my face and tells me, the problem is up. I can see your panties through your pants. I was honestly shook and didn't really know how to react. After a brief silent pause, I hatch a plan that fixes the problem. There was a bathroom around the corner, so I said, Fine, please let me use the bathroom quickly. She let me go and waited for me outside of the bathroom. In the bathroom, I changed out of my panties and slipped my leggings back on. When I went back to the hallway, the assistant principal asked, "So are we calling your mom to get you to change, or do you want to borrow pants for today?" I responded with, "Oh, I actually just changed." She looks at me like I'm stupid. "You said the problem was you can see my panties." "So I changed out of my panties," I said to her as patted on my backpack to indicate the point. She huffed at me and said, "That's not the point. You told me the problem and now it's solved. You can't see my panties through my leggings if I'm not even wearing panties," I said, surely believing I would get detention at this point. After assessing that a minor might say the assistant principal made me take off my panties, she kind of huffed at me again and wrote me a late pass so I could continue to class. This made me a legend for like a week at my school. And lucky, my parents never had to find out. Kilder I, 17, got dress coded for having visible panties through thin leggings. I take off my panties and found a loophole. Nowadays I think back and wonder if my pussy was just out and about for everyone that day. This next one is entitled, "I Waste Karen's Precious Time." About a year ago, I was working at a local bagel restaurant that made both breakfast and lunch sandwiches. To set the scene, it's Saturday afternoon and we read between rushes. This lady, we'll call her Karen, walks in asking for a takeout order that she's made online. My coworker on the register doesn't recognize her name, ends up going through the reg to try to find it. After not finding it, my coworker asks her what her order was and tells her that we'll make it ASAP. She gets angry and starts going off on my coworker about how she's incompetent and that she placed it earlier that morning, that she needs to be somewhere soon and that it must be in there. She apparently was in a hurry. Coworker goes through the reg again and again. No online order. They finally get Karen to place her order, and it's put on the line. Tuna and chicken salad. Girl wrangled Karen like a pro. I get the misfortune of making the order, and Karen is watching me make the sandwich like a hawk, inspecting a field mouse. Tells me that one of the bagels is not toasted enough, and that the other was burned. They weren't, but I remade them anyway. The next part is really where she reaches peak Karen. To preface, I was always trained to use one gloved hand, and ungloved hand on the spreading knives. If I was handling meat or fish, it required two gloves with exception to tuna and chicken spread, because you use knives with those. Anyway, Karen stops me midway though her order and tells me to put on another glove. A bit annoyed with how closely she was watching me and with how she treated my coworker, I say, "Oh, of course, put on another glove," and wiggle my fingers at her to show the gloved hands. I go back to making her sandwiches. I finish the order and go to hand her her bag when she says, "I don't want those. Get me your manager." At this point, I'm more than a bit angry. This Karen comes into the shop, is angry at us, the employees, because we didn't receive her order. For some weird tech reason, tells me how to do my job, and lets me complete 2 sandwiches before making me get my manager. So I go in the back, tell my manager that there's a Karen waiting for her, not in those words, and go back out with her. I clean up nearby while my manager talks to her. Karen tells her that I was only using one glove and that I should be fired, to which she replies that that's how I was trained and that's how the restaurant is run. We've never had a health code citation for anything ever, And if she wants to look through the reports, she's more than welcome. To which the Karen backs down and says something about maybe wanting the sandwiches after all. Here's where the malicious compliance comes in. I knew that she was in a hurry to get somewhere, and her sandwiches are still on the counter. I pick them up, make dead eye contact with her, and throw them away. My manager, not noticing that I did this, turns to me and asks about the sandwiches. I smile and say I threw them away because Karen said she didn't want them, and that they will have to be remade. My other coworker, one that's been doing dishes, comes out completely oblivious to the situation. I give the order to him and warn him to use 2 gloves and tell him to take his time and make sure the order is perfect. It's not much, but I'm satisfied that I slowed her down. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, smash the bell, and whatever else our YouTube overlords require nowadays.